Hello, and you are looking live at another edition of Pump It Up, a Kentucky baseball podcast. Adam Luckett, your host, once again here with my guy, Derek Terry, and stuff is happening on the Kentucky baseball beat. There's no doubt about it. We're going to talk about it all today, but first, got a shout out to our friends and presenting sponsor, Friends of Cole. Pump It Up is presented by Friends of Coal. Friends of Coal is dedicated to informing and educating Kentucky citizens about the coal industry and its vital role in the state's future. We provide a united voice for an industry that has been and remains a critical economic contributor to Kentucky. By working together, we can provide good jobs and benefits for future generations. Coal is resilient, reliable, and affordable. Friends of Coal is a volunteer organization. All are invited to be a part of our organization, which consists of proud Kentuckians as well as residents from beyond our borders. Head to friendsofcoalkentucky.org to learn more. Derek, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Are we going to get to your Vegas stuff now or at the end?
We can get
That's
to
all
it
I care
now.
about today.
We can get to it now. Ran a 10K in Vegas. I am absolutely gassed right now. I'm not going to lie to you. As soon as this is over, I might be going to bed. So did 3 nights in Vegas, had a good time, lost some money, ran a 10K, had good weather. It was actually like it was going to be 80 the day after we left. So that was unfortunate. Didn't get to enjoy that kind of weather, but we was in the 60s. Then I think it got up to 70s the last day we were there. So had a very good time in Vegas, always a city that always delivers.
How long you been running 10Ks?
So last year, my wife wanted to try to do some in-home gym stuff instead of going to the gym and all that. So we bought a treadmill, and she was like, if I buy this, I want to run, but I need you to help support me. And so she had run a mini before, and she wanted to do that. So we started training to run the mini, and then it kind of got scrapped because life happens. But we ran a 10K last year, about the same time. So we're trying to run we have signed up, we have paid to run the mini marathon, which is end of April here in Louisville. And so this was like the halfway checkpoint for us to kind of check in. So I got to run a 10K on the Vegas Strip, which was one of the cooler, I guess, running environments I've been in. So I got to do that. And so I've only been doing it about a year now, I guess. Just I wouldn't say I'm any good at it. I just, I'm kind of like a 28 handicap when it comes to, runners right now. I'm just out there, just trying not to look like an idiot.
Well, that is impressive though. And your game of choice in the casino?
It was craps at a time. Not as much anymore. I'd say blackjack and roulette are the two I've been playing the most. I'm trying to get into more. And so, but blackjack and roulette would be the two right now. But
roulette.
Craps at a time, I dig some craps, but then you lose a few times, and you're like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I can get over that. Don't have the resiliency to get over the craps adversity.
I need to get back. I've not been to Vegas since before COVID. Kentucky played Ohio State. CBS Sports Classic went out there. That arena was pretty new at the time. I don't know how old it was. It was nice. T-Mobile's the sponsor back
still
then.
T-Mobile Arena, yeah.
Still T-Mobile. Yeah, it was good time in December. Did no crazy Vegas stories for me or anything. I did, listening to Bill Simmons. It sounds like Vegas has kind of had a downturn lately, trying to figure out what they are as a city moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of people upset because it's kind of like the Nashville thing. It's gotten so corporate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, they still, like, if you want like kind of the old Vegas vibe, you can go to Old Vegas over off Fremont Street. A lot of people still really like that, but like the Strip is not what it's just changed, I would say, a lot in the last 15. I mean, the first time I went was 10 years ago, and it's a lot different now than it was then. It's just, I mean, you name a restaurant that you think is popular, it's out there. It's become very like corporate, I would say. And so I think that a lot of people are upset about that, but like they've got more stuff out there. Like they got that arena has events. Talk of the Town was kind of the baseball stadium being built when I was out there. I saw a lot of the hats. I was like, what is that hat? And they were like, oh, this is the Athletics are coming in, I don't know, I think it's 2 years.
Yeah,
so
I think 28.
A lot of people are excited about that and what that stadium's going to be like. And then, they've got the NFL team out there now too.
Well, I look forward to the Reds making the trip out there. They don't have to go to that AAA park in Sacramento or wherever the hell the A's are playing these days.
I know that's like playing down Lindsey Nelson or something. The ball just flies out of there.
Not if the Reds are playing, but yes, otherwise, it is.
Oh, speaking of that, we got to talk about the game today. Actually, good game. Got the first midweek win, Derek. And actually, my preview today, I feel like I spoke this into existence. I said that the Kentucky's got to wake up the bats. Like they've got to start scoring some runs against these teams. And I think we saw today. To me, today was their best offense performance. I think by far throughout the lineup. I thought good ABs all game. Getting good contact on the ball, aggressive but not over aggressive. Overall, I think a good performance against a team. I think at WKU. I don't think they're as good as they were last year, but that should be a good team in Conference USA. So I think it could end up being a good win when you look up down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real case that this was the best team they've played this year. The midweek aspect, you weren't seeing their best arms necessarily, but that goes the same for Kentucky. You're throwing the midweek guys there too. Yeah, some of these numbers were pretty crazy. Hit 500 as a team today. This is coming off of performance on Saturday in the second game of the doubleheader where they only had 4 hits. So they had tied the season high for hits by the 5th inning, I believe, and finished with 20. So the previous was, I want to say it was 14 or 15. Had 25 runners on. So drew a couple walks. Tyler Cerny got hit by a pitch because he always does. And then a
couple, yeah.
Yeah. So did well. It was a really good offensive performance. The similar deal last week where against Moorhead, this was kind of a higher scoring midweek game. Moorhead put up 8. Wasn't a great performance at all by the pitchers. You'd like to see the offense be able to maybe outslug them in a game like that. And tonight they did. This was the case where the offense picked them up. Pitching really up until Berkeley Bounds wasn't great. It was just okay. Alderman was probably a little bit better than what he was last week. But offense definitely kind of the tell. You can use these kind of comparisons after the game from Stat Broadcast. And one of the numbers that stuck out to me, when they had runners on third base and less than 2 outs, Kentucky went 7 for 8 today, 875 average. I mean, it doesn't really – that's great. Doesn't really get better than that. And could have gone 8 for 8, but that's – that would have been perfection at that point. And just some of the names, in terms of the hits, Owen Jenkins led the way with 4. I think he's really kind of grabbed onto that catcher position. He's doing a nice job, especially at the plate. And that was kind of the sell with him. You expected the bat to be a little bit further along than what his defense might be. But Luke Lawrence moved up to second today. Really good performance from him, I thought. Hudson Brown keeps hitting it well. I know we'll probably dig into a few of those guys a little bit later. But all around, everybody had a hit. I mean, it's a great night at the park for the offense.
Yeah, and to me, I think one thing that stood out, they moved Jace Tarnish down to number 3 hole. Feels like when they've played well on offense, he's produced. Like he's standing out, I think, as a guy that's really important for them. He had that big home run tonight, got off to a hot start, I think he started 3 for 3 and ended up 3 of 6. But when he gets going, that's typically he's got a hand, it feels like, in these big innings. And so I think for him, he's really important. And kind of figuring out where they want to place him in the lineup. But yeah, I think just offensively, the two out hitting was pretty impressive. The runners on hitting was impressive. 520, 13 to 25. And then, like you said, you got that runner on third just getting him home. And they did that with ruthless authority. And I thought WKU gets that 5 spot in the 6th. Kentucky bounces right back, gets two runs, extend the lead to 3. WKU comes back again, gets 2 in the 7th before Kentucky's like, all right, let's stop messing around. Let's get Bounds in here. And then Kentucky's offense comes back and gets 3. And then I think that gave them the breathing room for the rest of the day. So that, to me, that was good to see because we've seen, I think, the pitching kind of carry them early. It was good to see the offense return the favor.
Yeah, definitely been flipped here. I mean, defense and pitching leading the way on the weekends, and then offense maybe not. UNC Greensboro was good last weekend. Outside of Friday, probably not so much. Whereas in the midweeks, it's definitely been the staff's kind of working through it in the middle of the week. You got guys who are coming back from an injury in the case of Alderman, and then you have younger guys who you're trying to have develop more or less guys that could be big pieces of the future, potentially, in some cases, maybe even guys who'll be needed this season who they're trying to work through, who are scuffling a little bit, I would say, here in the early going. You mentioned Bounds earlier. I mean, he's kind of turned into a shutdown guy, right? I mean, it's all non-conference so far. We'll see what that looks like for the SEC, but this is a kid who I think has certainly put himself in position to be someone that should be counted on moving forward, and at least on Sundays, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of been a strikeout artist here for them. It's really been impressive. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. I don't want to speak for you or anyone else, but yeah, that's been really, even tonight, just is like, okay, because it feels like, Derek, they've wanted Niall Adcock to be this kind of fireman in these midweeks, at least early. I mean, it's only been 2 games, but that didn't go super. He inherited the runners there, I believe. What was it, the 5th or 6th inning? Didn't go well, and so they put Tristan Hunter in. It kind of gets away from him pretty quick, and Bounds again. He wild pitches I think he's allowed 3 runs now on wild pitches early in the year. So that's not what you wanted to see, but he gets the outs, and it was really, I thought, painless 8th and 9th. Like, he just didn't have to sweat it really after WKU, who I think's got a pretty good lineup. He was able to work through that, and so yeah, I think he's definitely been, I believe, a pleasant surprise there in that pen, and he's going to be a factor as we progress through the season.
Yeah, you mentioned the wild pitch. Excuse me. He had that last week against Moorhead as well, where the runner scored from second.
Yeah.
So kind of a fluke play there. But that's the only, I mean, kind of, if you're going to knock him for anything, that's it. Because, the next guy had a weak chopper to second base. The run scored, but it's runs that he inherited. And then he, I think, retired everyone else that he faced, right? So,
yeah, I think so.
4 strikeouts, 23 of his 33 pitches went for strikes. So this is someone who's just filling up the zone. And his ERA for the season down to 1.35. And he's probably, I don't have his season numbers. I don't know if it's even been compiled quite yet. Can't do the math quickly here either. I'm guessing out of the bullpen, in terms of his appearances, this is probably his 3rd or 4th game that he's pitched so far.
4th game, 6.2 innings, 14 strikeouts over those 6.2.
There you go.
He didn't allow, I don't believe, an earned run tonight because of the 2 runners that score were inherited. So he's only allowed 1 earned run. That ERA stat can get a little.
It can, early
sometimes.
Well, you see that with Leighton. These early season ERAs get out of hand quickly. He's at 22.5 for the season. Leighton, this is someone, both of his outings so far, I would say he's probably left wanting more from, is fair to say. And, he's in a big spot. This is someone that they could really use him moving forward on the weekends. We've talked, I think, in our first episode about kind of the lack of left-handers on this team. We got to see Will Coleman last Friday. Looked really good last Friday. He's not thrown outside of that, I don't believe. So, Leighton, he's counted on. He's someone they're going to be counting on. And the line tonight wasn't great. He goes 1.2, 3 hits, had the 4 earned runs. Didn't think his lone walk, he did fall behind 3-0. From the angle on TV, it looked like a strike on 3-0. Based on how the rest of his outing went, it's hard to kind of just speculate how things might have gone. Yeah, but maybe he's able to bounce back after that. You throw it in the zone and you don't get the call, and you'd like to see him rally from that, I guess. But him and Tristan Hunter, they're both kind of in the same bucket. These are 2 true sophomores that have really high upside that I think the staff like both of those guys a lot. And neither one really had it tonight. Tristan came in, he got 1 out, but he walked 2 and he hit a batter. So
just didn't look comfortable. The whole inning. But Leighton, he comes in though. He gets this, I think, a couple strikeouts, strands a runner, so he gets off to a good start, and then it just gets a little weird on him. But I believe this is the first time he pitched since the Greensboro. So, but yeah, they are going to need him because they're going to need that lefty, and you never, he's a guy too, I think, could be first up if something happens to one of these starters, right?
Could be. Yeah. I mean, Alderman was better today, I thought. The only home run he allowed it was a solo, which, if you're going to give them up, it's the one that's going to hurt you the least. Did give up 3 doubles, so I can't remember the extra. I think he allowed 3 extra base hits last week. No, 2. I believe it was 2 because he gave up the 2 home runs, and those
2
were the
bombs,
only 2.
yeah.
So maybe a couple more of these bats found the gaps. But you would think he's somebody that the more he throws, he'll get more comfortable. He's still working back from. I mean, he's 2 years off. He anything more than what they would have been getting, I think you would have really been thrilled about, because at least I personally have felt like this is going to kind of be a long-term play with Alderman. And based on his eligibility too, I mean, I want to say he's probably still classified. I don't know what he technically is, but in terms of the years he could get back, like he might just really be like a redshirt sophomore. I don't know where UK has him. Of course, for him, I mean, the draft age is what's going to matter. If he ever becomes a pro prospect, that'll be probably more important than his classification. But between Alderman and Layton and Hunter, I mean, these are guys that, in theory, I think you would like to see develop into a point where by the time you get to the end of the season, you could talk about them as viable potential weekend candidates next year. Not to say they'd be guaranteed a spot, but at least have somebody in the mix, because at this point, Cleaver's going to get drafted. Jelkin's going to get drafted. It's really just Nate Harris, assuming there's no switches at all to the bullpen or to the weekend rotation. And at this point, no reason to think so. It's early, but just through 2 weekends, the weekend staff is doing a really good job. So, I think moving forward on these midweek games, and maybe, it's Tuesday or today's Wednesday, got pushed today, maybe affects the weekend stuff slightly because of that. But
Yeah.
be curious if any of these guys come back maybe on Sunday, see how they keep developing, because I think this will be a good storyline. And these guys in the midweek, I think Layton will get it together. He had a really nice summer. I thought looked pretty good when he got to pitch as a freshman. So working through it. Really young guys. This is what these midweek games are for, and you'd like to see them kind of keep going here, and they'll break through. I do believe at some point.
Yeah. Before we shift and get to the big prospect potentially for the MLB draft, just back to Evansville. Friday, Kentucky jumps on them early, hits a couple out, joking all that, and then 2 like really close games. Any big takeaways from that Evansville weekend for you, Derek?
I'll probably say this, and Friday won't go the same way, but watching Jelkin pitch, it feels like he's probably not going to be challenged until SEC play. I think you have to love his ability to really be able to get timely strikeouts. He's kind of one of those pitchers that has just such naturally good stuff.
He can press the button.
Whenever he needs it.
He's got the remote control. He can just press the button.
Yeah, so he looked really good. Of course, that was the only game that was streamed, so it was the one I watched all of. St. John's off to a rough start. A Big East team, so a little bit better conference, you would think, in general. At least a couple of good teams normally out of the Big East. I'm not sure St. John's is one of them. We'll see. But I thought he was excellent. They started so well offensively. You got the home run from Tarnish there in the first pitch that he saw. He had Schwartz hit the 3-run bomb and ended up having 9 runs, all through the first 5 innings. And then no runs after that. During the game, I thought it was kind of easy to chalk up as them just kind of getting ahead, maybe taking the foot off the gas a little bit. But then you see what happened Saturday. I wasn't up there. I know the weather wasn't great, especially on Saturday, very windy, cold. I was surprised to see them get shut out. I think anybody would have been. Just the first game on Saturday, they really were in position to have a much better offensive game. They had traffic on all game. I believe they ended up finishing 150 with runners on base. I mean, they had traffic all afternoon, just could not come up with the big hit until Hendel did it in the 8th. So I didn't feel like necessarily that was a poor performance, just knowing that, you do that same situation where you put those kinds of guys on base, you're going to have games like tonight where you break through and it's going to look good in the box score. But Saturday, it didn't seem like they really, they got 2 runners on base in the 9th. And again, this was just off the box score, but got 2 guys on base in the 9th, couldn't quite cash in, but didn't have a lot of traffic in that second game. We talked about Moorhead. It's easy with those midweeks to kind of throw it away. I think you can do this as well, most likely with Evansville, but at the same time, that was a bit of a surprising result, but went up there, got the 2 wins. I'm sure it'll help the RPI. Getting to come home now for 13 of the next 14 this is where I think you're going to want to see UK really do a lot of damage, start building a lot of momentum. The only road game they have is at EKU, which is a game they typically go down there and play anyway. Some UK ties this year with that staff, a couple of alums on staff down there. But, overall, I think that this is, easy to forget about as long as you're able to come out like you did tonight, hit the ball really well, get some momentum, and then this weekend you want to see that carry over. And just overall, the pitching staff just continues to be really good. I didn't get to mention Cleaver Harrell. Nate Harris probably is worthy of a shout out. He tied his career strikeouts.
Yeah, there's to rotate. We'll find out at SEC play, but they just been as good as you could hope for, I think, to this point. Into St. John's, Derek, they're 1-6. They've scored 3 runs or less in 4 of the 7 games. To this point, they just had a kind of a borderline non-competitive sweep against Arizona State. So that's a team. You think, especially with Kentucky's starting staff is pitching, you could pitch well. But St. John's has had teams here recently that have made the tournament and been competitive. But that should be a series where Kentucky should, you would hope so. They'd be able to handle. But I just liked how they bounced back today. I think the Evansville series, my big takeaway is you never want to see 1-0, but you want to win the series, win 2 or 3, move on, handle your midweek here, and then if you can go on a run here, and then you're gonna feel good about where you were, what you did in the non-conferences. So that's kind of where they're at to me.
Probably a case to be made too that if you're going to go up there and play those games, they won the first one easy, but kind of having to come up with some clutch outs, some clutch hits in the first. Really, both games had opportunities to do so. Maybe you, in terms of just game situations, you're able to get a little bit out of that. But in general, the one, it was the first time they've been shut out since the SEC tournament in 2024. That was to LSU. So, last year they had some lower scoring games, some close, low scoring games, but I only went back to there. I don't know in terms of a non-conference game. The last time I didn't dig far enough to know. It might not have been that long. Maybe it has been. I don't know. But it is what it is. I don't know if those games not being, I'm just not sure how I feel about the games not being televised in any way. Friday was, but maybe it's good that a lot of people don't get to watch that. But at the same time, I almost think it's kind of hard to build a lot of momentum in the early going whenever 6 of their, what have they played, 8 games now? 6 of the 8 games have not. Or no, 5 of the 8, I guess, have not been.
Evansville, that park was not small. So if that wind was blowing in and it was cold, I could see why those 2 games got weird there on Saturday.
No, I agree with you. It still feels like they're kind of finding some things out with the lineup. I do think that you're getting a better idea of that now. Hansen was able to come back over the weekend, start. I know Duffy still in the mixer at catcher. I believe Taggart Tyson, because they had a lefty that first game, they were able to load it up a little bit more with some righties. I've not dug enough into the St. John's preview to know which pitchers we're going to see in terms of right-handed or left-handed, but ironing those things out, I think will certainly be really in the league play. I think that's going to be a storyline I'm thinking of anyway the whole time.
Yeah, and then I think the biggest storyline, really, if people kind of following Kentucky at all, is what's happening with Tyler Bell. We got an update last midweek after the Moorhead game from Mingione was basically like he's going to see specialists, essentially was the update. And it's killing him to not be out here. But then just a week later, the tune, I thought Nick Mingione's tune changed a little bit. He goes on pregame show. He's on with Darren Hedrick, talking about a bunch of different things. But then we get one Tyler Bell question in there. And Mingione gives a quote basically of where he's at and where he's headed. It sounds like he's going to be playing soon. Mingione said when asked about Bell, he's progressing along. Feels like he's getting better and stronger. So he's taking his ground balls and he's taking BP now. Seems as he's progressing well so far. Now, that's not him really saying like, oh, he's coming back, this or that. But to me, it's a pretty big difference from he's seeing all these specialists to he's progressing and he's doing baseball activities. And so it sounds like this is a guy that's trending towards returning to the lineup. Now, when we don't know, but it looks like that those wheels are in motion.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly gives the impression that he's, not so injured that they basically want him doing nothing, right? I mean, he's out there, like Minjian said, taking ground balls, doing some BP. Huge. I mean, I thought a pretty huge update to be able to just know that they're
it was a week, literally a week to the day from the last one, or I guess 8 days, but yeah.
So, I mean, if you're able to get him back, I mean, at least by SEC play. So that first series, I believe, is March 13th when they play Alabama. So still a few weeks away to keep recovering. If you could get him back before that, great. If he's able to come back for the Citadel that weekend before. But, I'm speculating here, but just this news, it does seem like he will return at some point this season, unless there's a hiccup or something happens as he's trying to progress to being back on the field. You hope that it's something he can come back from and still play fairly well. You would have to imagine it's going to be something that's going to, probably affect him in some way. I mean, we saw it. If you just think about basketball, I know it's a totally different sport, more contact going on, but Jalen Lowe was never the same after he got hurt. Even when he was out there, at no point would you say he was healthy playing basketball this season. So for Tyler, I mean, you hope that he's able to come back and be a productive player for his sake. I think and I think Minjian's really gotten this point across. I think it says a lot about him, someone who is draft eligible, someone who, quite frankly, kind of has a lot to lose potentially if he comes back and potentially ranges at worst, doesn't play all that great. I mean, that could cost him in the draft. But the fact that he does want to come back and play for this team, I mean, not to get on a soapbox, I feel like it's kind of easy to in this era where there is more money in the game, and it's kind of easy to just say someone's in it for the money or whatnot, and they don't care like they used to, or whatever. Some of these things you might hear. That does not seem to be the case here. I mean, this kid's just a gamer who, really his whole story has been that, turning down where he was drafted. I mean, he could have been a millionaire already playing single A somewhere going into this season, and he's here at UK, and it sounds like he wants to play through an injury, and I think everybody will welcome that back. And it's really just in terms of the morale, I think has to be a huge boost for everybody that as of now, at least, it sounds like things are trending better for Tyler.
Yeah, and I just think one, he helps them, even if he can't play defense, even if it's just getting his bat in the lineup, it just helps having him there. Like it just and it helps everyone, or I think around the in the lineup or on the card, just having him there, and then just having kind of what everyone knew coming into the year was their best player, and what sounds like who's one of the hardest workers and kind of like a leader on the club. And so having it out there would be a big boost. And you just hope, to me, when they put him there, he can stick. I think the worst thing could happen is if, you put him out there and then he's in and out of the lineup.
Yeah.
You want him, when you put him back out there, you want him to be able to stay there just so everyone can kind of settle in. Because right now they're figuring out the roles and they're figuring out where everyone wants to be, and they're kind of settling in at every spot. And so when you do get Bell back, you want to just kind of have him as hopefully as seamless as possible, kind of move in and just put it on cruise control. But that you can only do that, I think, if he's able to stay in the lineup. So that would be my biggest concern is if you put him back in there, is he able to just go, or is it a thing where he's got to be in and out of the lineup and they got to figure stuff out?
I mean, you made a good point about, in terms of defense, is he okay to play defense? I'm just curious, just, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Like, as a switch hitter, I would imagine there's some kind of, in terms of the swing, maybe on one of the sides could be a little bit more of an effect on him than the other. I mean, probably more questions than I have answers at this point, but just with what we do know from this update today, a good sign, that sounds like he's progressing towards a return. And I do believe too, just in some of the things you hear, I mean, it sounds like it's killing him to not be out there. This is a guy who he loves ball. Like it. He loves baseball.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it sounds like he's using a Will Stein word, just a junkie out there, just absolutely loves it. And so, yeah, I think just don't know Tyler or anything, but everything I've heard about him is like he would give the team a boost, just his presence, being out there, and it just he's a just baseball nut. It sounds like, and so to me, like I think today was maybe the best news of the year. Like you get Bell back, you have this performance where you've kind of bounced back, and I think you show like this is how this team's going to be a good offensive club. It would look like something today. Obviously, you're not going to go out and get 20 hits against SEC competition, but offensively, you got a little power. You got this and that, but you've got it all down the line. 9 hitters, bunting, score a run, and just Tyler Cerny's, wearing them when he has to get a couple hit by pitches, and then Hudson Brown like big double. I thought there, I believe it was in the 7th to score a run.
Yeah, he was fired up.
So that's what it would look like, I think, for this team to kind of be what they want to be on offense. It would look like that.
Yeah, probably something we could have mentioned too at the Evansville series. I thought maybe it was just because they were facing a lefty in that game 1, but Hendel moved up to the leadoff spot that game. He stayed there, I believe, every game since. Makes sense. I mean, he's one of the best OBP guys on the team. 1 for 5 tonight. Also had a sacrifice, but he hit the home run like we mentioned earlier to start the game. And from what I can tell in the games I've gotten to watch, he's doing fine at second. It was probably one of the questions I had because he spent so much time at third, spent time at first in the preseason. Honestly, the only time I even remember watching him play second in the fall, and it's not to say that this was the only time, it was just when I was out there, it was towards the end of fall when some guys were banged up and they just needed bodies out there. That's the only time I even remember. I mean, it's hardly even something I made a note of because it was just under the circumstances that a lot of guys were playing positions they normally hadn't played up to that point in the fall. Luke's done very well at short, I've thought too, so far. So defensively, it was a clean game. Then Kentucky had the error, but I believe it was on Campbell. He had the throwing error that Scott Campbell had that went into the dugout for Western Kentucky. But yeah, you mentioned Hudson. His whole deal the whole time we talked about in the offseason was because of where he was limited to one position, essentially. He needed to hit really well to stay in the lineup, and he's 483 to this point in the season. Really a patient hitter too. Like he's going to get on base. He's going to draw walks. I think the power will kind of keep coming for him too. I mean, that ball he hit today was scorched. I didn't see an exit velo on it. I mean, he hit it.
Oh, it was, I think they said 106 off the bat.
106. Yeah. I mean, he hit that extremely well. 1 hop the wall. Give that 2 more months, maybe to get a little wind too. It can fly out of there to dead center. So, I mean, at that park, I know you've been over there. I mean, you got to hit one out to dead center. I mean, you got to get all of it in that park. Mm-hmm. So, really good from him. Schwartz moved down in the order for this game. He's someone who's been in 3-hole a lot this year. He had the 2 RBIs tonight. Also had a sacrifice. So Kentucky baseball in there. A guy that could be counted on to be kind of a person to supply extra base hits. Still willing to put down a bunt. I mean, really anybody 1 through 9 is going to be asked to do that, and that was an example of that tonight. In terms of other standouts, I mean, you mentioned Tarnish already. He is one that is interesting to see where he's going to settle in the order. Coming into the year, I thought he might be a leadoff guy. He's hit second. Now he's hitting third. Having a good season. A couple home runs now. Perfect on stolen bases still, I believe. 7 for 7. So provides a lot to the offense. He's someone, if he heats up a little bit right here, that'd be good to see. And then, of course, we mentioned Cerny. Getting hit by a pitch. Really good night. Really good game for him.
The 8 hit by pitches just really pops on the stat sheet, like early in the year. 25 at bats, 8 hit by pitches, just really pops out.
A guy who stays bruised up through from about February to May.
I'm gonna have to create like plunk rate or something for him, just like 278. Yeah, 278 plunk rate here for Tyler Cerny. It gets a good kick on the board during the game threads. People really get a kick out of it.
Yeah, his OBP has really gone up as well. I mean, he's also drawn a couple of walks this season.
Well, you've seen some of the power, I think, specifically in these 2 home games where he's hit these doubles into the gap.
Yes.
And so he's got some power there that'll, I think, last into the season.
Yeah, has he hit one yet? I don't think he has for
no,
the
he
season.
He has not left the park yet.
Those are going to come for sure.
Yeah.
Soon. No, all around, I thought this was mostly a feel-good game. It got, maybe a classic midweek fashion where it looks like you're rolling 1 minute and then the next it's the 1-run game. But you made a really good point earlier, I thought, where Western cut this to 1 twice, 2 different innings, and Kentucky kind of had to respond both times, and they did. And by the end, it was a comfortable win. I mean, no base runners, I don't believe, right, in the 8th or the 9th for Western Kentucky.
To me, it's like compared to golf, they're at the end, they had stress-free pars, I thought, in the 8th and the 9th. They just got up there an easy putt to get in but they got those because of what they did, I thought, there in those 2 innings after WKU trimmed the lead to 1 twice. I mean, 2 innings in a row really put some game pressure on Kentucky, and Kentucky responded. But back to Hendel, I just wanted to say this right quick. Like, he's kind of the guy that kind of had to step up when Bell goes out of the lineup, and he's doing, like, I think the Nick Mingione baseball thing. He's 9 for 30. He's tied for the lead in runs. He leads the team in RBIs with 10. He's tied for the team lead in doubles with 5. He leads the team with triples and 2. He's only one of, I think, 4 players with a home run, 6 walks, been hit by a pitch, got 1 sacrifice hit, 3 sac flies, 5 steals. Like, he's just doing it. Like, that's just what they want. And so I think he's been a standout. They've even moved him up in the lineup to the top of the order. He hits a leadoff home run tonight. He has the big hit in the Saturday win over Evansville. Like, he's really doing some good things. And then I think Brown, like, you've just got to be really impressed by him. 14 of 29 to start the season, 5 doubles, 7 walks, 4 Ks. He's hitting the cover off the ball right now. He had, of course, the big hit tonight. It's just been good to see. And he's another guy. They've batting 3rd. They've batting 4th. But he's emerged to me as a dependable guy in the middle of their lineup right now, and he's putting the bat on the ball and really putting some pressure on the defense.
Yeah, he's tied for the team leading doubles with Hendel. So, those are the 2 that you're just talking about that you look up and down this box score, the season stats, I mean, and, they're the mainstays right now. I mean, with Hendel, even in the event that, Bell does come back, I mean, it would certainly cause some kind of shuffling as, you've had to make some changes here without him, but he's solidified. Maybe hard to say just because it is still so early in the season, but at least in the short term, he absolutely has. He's, I think, someone who's going to keep getting penciled in at leadoff. I kind of liked Lawrence a second today. I kind of liked that. He'd been hitting leadoff, getting in there today. You have probably your top 3 or the top 4 really in the order whenever you go down to Brown as well. To this point in the season, I know Owen just had a really nice night tonight, but these have been your 4 best, I think, offensive players, all things considered, to start this year. Cerny's right in the mix too, who's hitting 5th. Really the only one that you would look at who's played really well, who is really, I mean, splitting time, if that, is Alex Duffy. Duffy, the numbers look pretty good for him, but he's not, he's just not quite gotten the opportunities. I think they like Owen a lot back there. It's hard to even say he's the future of the program considering how much he's playing. I mean, he's here now playing and someone that they're able to count on, but he's kind of in that mix where, Hudson's hitting well. He's going to play. Tonight the DH was Hansen, 2 for 4. He's off to a little slower start, kind of all things considered, but he's not played as many games either as some of these other guys have. So, and he had the double tonight, got on base with a walk. So, where do you kind of find those opportunities for Duffy is kind of the thing. And, if he keeps getting chances and he keeps hitting, I'm sure you'll see him out there a little bit more. But, I do think as we go along, is starting to kind of figure out this depth, a little bit more. And of course, the Hanson, always an option for him to play in the outfield. If Campbell were to come out, that would allow someone else to get in there at DH. Van Cleve still got some starts, at least one start over the weekend. So from the left side, it feels like that's kind of some of the bench options that they still have, which is good, to be able to have some depth that you feel good about moving forward. Caden Cloud's another one. I don't know. Like Caden would have been one that if they felt like, and I said this last week, I believe, I think they felt like if Bell was going to be out for an extended period of time, I mean, over the course of months, I think he's someone who might have gotten a little bit more playing time, but right now it's still for him mostly in these lopsided games is when he's getting to come in and play.
Yeah, and I think just overall, like you pointed out, the depth of the team, I think that was in the preseason, if you were listing, strengths of the club, of the team, depth would have been up there. And I think you're seeing that now kind of play out because they have options. If they got guys, I think if they had to pinch hit in a game, like they've got some options, I think, from both the right and the left side. And so that's going to be interesting to see and just how they maybe can use Duffy moving forward. It's just certainly something, nice to have. And so, and it puts, I think, some pressure on them. You mentioned like Campbell, they could play that card. They could play Hanson and move DH for Van Cleve or for Duffy if that's something they wanted to do.
Yeah, I think slow start for Campbell, both sides. Defensively, he had the rough game against Moorhead. Tonight, it's a do or die play. You're trying to throw the guy out, at the plate. And I don't know. I tried to watch it on replay. I don't know if he just maybe went. I don't know. I've not seen a ball end up in the dugout there. My time watching the UK at that stadium, I don't think so. Offensively, he's hitting ninth right now. So he kind of, he had such a good year at USC Upstate, but this was a big jump. And his pass was interesting. I thought, he was someone who, I believe was at a junior college before he went to USC Upstate. And so he didn't have like the longest track record, but the Big South, that league has produced really good players who have transferred up. I mean, you'll see that every year. I mean, Ryan Waldschmidt for Kentucky, Hunter Gillum, like that 23 team, Hunter Gillum and Ryan Waldschmidt both came from that league. Cam O'Brien on the pitching side came from Campbell, and I think Campbell might have changed leagues now, but at the time, I believe he came from the Big South. So I think I was just going off track records of some other guys. Like I kind of thought he had real potential to be plug and play, and maybe he still will be. I'm just kind of pointing out this is one that we'll see because he has had a couple of games, I believe, where he wasn't in the lineup. Yeah, he's played in all 8 games, and I want to say he came through with a big knock in one of these games as well, a couple of games ago. So.
Yeah, to me though, he does things that I think Minchione and the staff really likes. Like tonight, the bunts. I think he's been hit 8 times already. Good athlete, right? 4 steals. Like he does some things I think they want. Specifically, if he can get on at a decent rate, I think in that 9 spot to have the speed for the top of the order coming up to get on base and to cause some havoc there. So to me, I think they want him in there, but yeah, the strikeout numbers have been the most alarming thing for me because that really wasn't an issue for him. And then moving up, I think it's 10 Ks and 33 plate appearances. And it's actually gotten better because it was, I think over in the Evansville game at one point, it was like 9 of 18 or something.
Yeah, he's at a 10-1 in terms of his K and walk ratio, but he is pushing Tyler Cerny for the team lead in hit by pitch. Yeah, so he's at 7. He's right up there with him. So
yeah, it's like what is important to you? The K's hit by pitches.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, and his WP is not bad. It's 438, so it could be the strikeouts that's maybe hanging around. I'm usually not somebody who cares that much about strikeouts either. New age and all that. Not going to get too hung up on that, but. Just in terms of, when you're talking about some of these other guys, it's basically got to be an outfielder who's going to come out of the order more or less if you're going to use somebody else at DH, right? I mean, At this point, the infield's pretty much solidified. You can switch around those catchers if you want, but like Owen Jenkins just had 4 hits. Would about guarantee he's going to play Friday. I would most likely say that that's going to be the case. So, and we'll see. I mean, there's still so much, things change so much in these seasons. I mean, if you think about how Kentucky ended, which they had some injuries in the regional, I get that, but like that whole thing was completely different than what you saw at the beginning of last season, and it ended up being a team that was good enough to get to a regional. So it seems to always kind of sort itself out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the season, basically 50 something games. The season's it's a marathon, right? And you kind of got to figure it out. They're in the figure it out process right now. And just as we shift, they're playing St. John's, like we mentioned, a 1-6 St. John's team coming to Lexington. It's going to be a series. Kentucky's going to be favorite to kind of handle their business. Derek, do you have any? We're I believe 8 games into this. Is this team just kind of where you thought? Are they where you thought they would be to this point?
I would say mostly. I mean, we already mentioned the shutout. That was surprising, I thought. But generally speaking, I mean, the offensive, in terms of the output, it looks really nice for the most part, aside from those couple of games in Evansville. I mean, they're scoring enough runs against these teams that you would like to see them kind of beat up on a little bit. And, even in their first loss to Moorhead, they still scored 6. Maybe with how the game was going, you would have liked to have seen maybe a few more quality at-bats, but generally speaking, they are producing. The midweek arms, it just kind of is what it is, because it is a developmental stage for a lot of those guys. And I would guarantee there will be some nights where they look pretty good. There's going to be nights like tonight where a couple of them probably just aren't going to have their best stuff. But the weekend arms, even beyond the rotation, they're getting really good performances out of a lot of the guys who come in. Thought it was good for Skelding last weekend, just drawing off the box score. He was one who was able to go out and
nice bounce back for him.
Yeah, had a good bounce back. I mean, Bennett's been good every time he I don't know how many saves he had in his career, if any. It was probably in the game notes, but obviously he'd been a starter at Western more recently. So to be able to go into that role and do that, Mullen able to come in, get some outs. So those bullpen roles, I mean, they're gonna keep getting sorted out as well.
Madison's been really good. I think
Madison has been. Yeah, it was another name that I was looking for. Didn't even have the pitching stuff pulled up. And we mentioned the freshman. One freshman we didn't mention, Jack Sams, another Lexington Catholic guy, one of 3 or 4 on this roster. It was a very big spot. I wouldn't say I was stunned. That would be too strong, because they still had a 7-run lead or whatever it was. But I didn't even know if he'd pitch at all this season, to be honest. And for him to come in here,
I think a 3-pitch strikeout.
It was 3-pitch K, came right in and ended things. So
not messing around.
Returned from injury. Yeah, so I mean, that was one of the kind of the takeaways from Friday night, was that they had 3 pitchers debut. Oliver Boone was here last year, but sat out with an injury. But when he had Coleman, who got to go back to his home state, and he looked really good. I mean, I think from watching him, you can kind of see the Cleaver comps, like why some people. I know it's kind of easy in college sports to just compare him to whoever's already on your team, but I think you can see why that happened. I'm intrigued by him. I would like to see him a little bit more. He might not be ready to be someone they just throw out there, against maybe the best teams on the schedule. That'll be something they have to figure out, or maybe they already know. But that was a good spot for him, I thought, to come in. In terms of this weekend, where it's still early, it's early, but it's almost like at the same time. I mean, what did we mention? They start SEC play. There's only one more, like for these weekend guys like Jelkin, he starts Friday. He starts against Citadel, the next one. And then it's SEC play, right? So it's like, I would be curious to see, if he's throwing well anyway for any of these guys on the weekends, how many more innings do they get? He went one more inning, Jelkin that is, went one more inning against Evansville than what he did in the opener. I would imagine if the pitch count looks pretty good, he'll be able to get to 6 this weekend. So that will be a storyline that I'll be following. Those guys have been throwing well. We already mentioned the opponent. This should be another pretty favorable matchup for these starting pitchers. Let's see how deep they can get into games and kind of go from there. I mean, with Jelkin, they've not had to piggyback him in a competitive game yet. So that's still one other area that I'd be curious to see how they choose to do that. Feels like it might be Bennett, maybe, or depending on how far he was able to get into a game. I really like the idea of Jelkin throwing 6 or 7 and then having Bennett come in and get the rest of the outs in the game. I think that's a great strategy. if they're able to do that, because you're matching two of your best pitchers overall. I think and it's just huge to take the first game of a series if you're capable. So we mentioned Cleaver. His line, he still had a really good line by the end. I'm not sure his outing was quite as sharp as Harris and Jelkin, but Harris is a good example of why you can't really pay attention to starting pitching wins and losses. I mean, he arguably had tied for his most career strikeouts, went 5 innings, gave up 1 hit, and he's the losing pitcher on the ledger. So seeing how those guys kind of keep developing will be a good storyline for the weekend moving forward, or this weekend, I think.
Yeah, I think that you make a good point about just stretching the starters out. They all went 4 the first weekend, went 5 the second weekend. So what happens is this third weekend here, and then first home weekend series of the year. And so Mingione talked about how he was disappointed how they played in that season opener. So see how they play in the first weekend home series. But to me, they're right where I think you wanted them to be. They essentially go 5-1 on the weekend when their guys are pitching.
Yeah.
Unfortunately dropped a midweek game, but those midweek games can get weird. But if you get on a little roll here, that's nothing worth, I think, worrying too much about. I mean, you even saw it last night. Even ESPN was tweeting about it last night with the three. Yeah. And before we leave, did you see Georgia head coach Wes Johnson? Did you see his little thing this week?
Something with Samford.
He was talking about. It was after media. He was like, they didn't play very well, and the next day they scored 20 runs or whatever. But he was talking about we're not going to let the outside voices essentially penetrate our program, and people. You couldn't tell if he was talking about players paying it too close to social media. If he's talking about just the media and if you just getting mad at media and fans, I didn't know. And then he said something the next day and was like, "I'm not talking or." This is what I wasn't talking about. I wasn't talking about anybody in our clubhouse, basically, is what he's saying. So I was like, well, so you must be talking about fans. It was just weird. That was maybe the weirdest moment of the baseball season at this point.
They got beaten 12 innings by Troy tonight, so he might have something else to say.
Yeah, maybe we get another soundbite from him tonight. He feels like he's a very hitting coach. If they don't hit 8 home runs, he's pissed off.
Yeah, a lot of UK ties in that program too. And I mean, obviously, Wes Johnson and Mingione coached together as well. So there's a lot of overlap. They're not on the schedule this year. I'm always a little bummed on Georgia. I always like those are some fun series, especially if they go on the road where the ball flies out of that park.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They certainly build their teams in that way too. I mean, they're there to play the long ball. Power arms and power hitters.
Yeah.
I was trying to think too. I was looking it up. Because I was trying to hit you with some trivia on St. John's baseball. I'm not sure Amir Garrett actually played baseball.
He played basketball. I remember watching him play basketball. Yeah. Not Tom Crean. It was Lavin. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Recently fired Steve Lavin. Whatever happened with him at San Diego.
The day I learned he was a San Diego head coach was the day I found, or they got tired from San Diego. It was the day I found out he was a San Diego head coach.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a under the radar thing out there. But I'd actually just seen an interview with Amir Garrett. It popped up on my feed talking about his fight with the Pirates back there a few years ago. So I think as the years go, those stories kind of get dramatized a little bit more than what they were. But clearly, his most memorable moment as a Red, I have to think, for Amir Garrett was fighting the entire Pirates team.
Yeah, I'd say so. For a year, that team was fun for a month and a half, and then
Suarez had a lot of home runs.
Suarez had a lot of home runs.
Was it the Aquino year? I think it was the Aquino month of August.
Dietrich gave us 6 good weeks, and then it was see you later, man. And that was
Puig in there. It was yeah. We got there fighting guys even after he got fired, or not fired, traded. I mean,
yeah, just God, just what a time that was. St. John's, though, I'm looking up now. It looks like they've been to the NCAA tournament 30 times. So they've got some baseball. His 6 World Series appearances that haven't had one since 1980, It's like the USC.
This must be the heyday.
It's like the USC thing. I always hear about how great USC baseball is, and then I look it up, and they haven't won a title since '86 or whatever.
Yeah, they had the one coach. I forget which. I think the last name was McKay. I'm sorry for the people that are old heads that like college baseball. I know there was one coach for them who won all their titles, and since then it's not been really the same.
Former Red Rich Aurelia was the 1990 Big East Freshman of the Year at St. John's. So there's our title.
Interesting. All right.
Well,
that was good for Red's Corner. South Stewart had a 440-foot home run today.
I saw Blade went deep down there too. That's that'll do it for Red's Corner. That'll do it for another episode of Pump It Up. Kentucky bounces back from a tough loss to Evansville, beats St. John's. Tyler Bell sounds like he's coming back. First home weekend series is on deck, and we'll be back here next week to recap it all. And next week, if you count Sunday, it's a 5-game week for Kentucky baseball next week. Got 2 midweek games in the 3-game series, so things are heating up on the baseball beat. We'll be back to talk about it all here on Pump It Up.